Hi, I'm Chris Bird. I'm music editor of Total Guitar Magazine, and I'm here with Steve Allsworth, a long-time contributor to the magazine, player of awesome guitar. We're going to be talking about your technical problems today, and we're going to be covering alternate picking. Common kind of technical glitch for lots of people, trying to get that up to speed. Shall we start by talking about the basic technique, what it is, and how we can start to get up to speed?
Alternate picking. Well, it's just basically it's just alternating direction. That's really what it means.
Pretty simple.
Down, up, down, up, down, up. It's basically alternate picking.
So why do we think, given that that's pretty damn simple, what are people struggling with most?
Coordination. That is the reason that people really struggle with this. It's basically the two hands doing slightly different speeds. So typically this hand will be much faster than the left hand, or vice versa. Actually, often this hand goes fast as well, but it's those hands not being coordinated quite right, and that's when you get those little scuffs and mutes and stuff like that.
Sure.
So there are a lot of exercises that I'm sure a lot of readers have seen to get those kind of skills together, but I think unfortunately a lot of those aren't particularly musical.
Right.
You know, I've probably been guilty of this myself in the past, but you know those old spider exercises, you know, start off one doing basically one finger per fret, down, up, down, up. But it's like, when are you going to use that in a piece of music kind of thing? So maybe, I don't know, maybe I should do something slightly more musical perhaps.
Yeah, let's do something that might work in a kind of solo type scenario. Okay,
well, I'll tell you what, how about if we do a cross string idea? I think this is where a lot of students struggle, is basically going from one string to another.
Definitely.
So maybe if we do a 3-note per string thing. The reason I say a 3-note per string thing, when you're doing alternate picking, is really useful. So for example, if we just take this, if we just do E minor, so we'll just take those notes from E minor. All right, so we're just basically going E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, right? So if you do alternate picking, what happens is, naturally, you'll go down, up, down, and when you go on to the next string, it'll be an up pick. That means you've got this lovely, guitarists love outside picking. As opposed to inside picking. Inside picking, you'll get stuck, so you'll go from an up on the lower string and a down on the upper string. Whereas here we're doing an outside pick. And what it means is, because of alternate picking, it actually makes everything so much easier.
Yeah.
So if we just start off with a basic exercise, which is just a triplet, it's a sextuplet, so 6 notes. And then we'll just come back to that root note. So that's the basic idea. And you'll notice naturally I'm already going into palm muting as well. This is another thing which can really be your best friend when you're doing a lot of alternate picking, particularly when you're in this kind of dusty area of the fretboard. But elsewhere as well, if you just play this without anything, it can be noisy. If you just play this minus any string muse, you'll those kind of strings ringing through it. If you actually just mute all of that, but actually add yourself a little bit of palm muting as well, it will make it sound more percussive, so you'll get that.
Particularly good when you've got a bit of distortion.
When you've got loads of distortion, it's your best friend. Otherwise, if you don't have it, it'll just be a mush of noise. So just when you're doing that idea, it's down, up, down, cross, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So you just, again, practice with a metronome. Go down. So you get that. You could play with a clean sound. You don't have to have the palm muting. So you can just get that together. But it just means when you start to speed those shapes up a little bit, it kind of just makes it sound a bit more percussive.
Yeah.
I've not got loads of distortion on this sound, but you can appreciate if I had masses of distortion, it would clean everything up.
Give it a bit of chunk.
As a kind of, as a sort of alternating across 2 strings idea, this is a really useful thing to get together. And all I was doing there, by the way, was just diatonically moving up those scales. So let's say we're just chugging away, E5, E minor. That kind of thing. Then theoretically, you can just go up diatonically. That kind of thing. And all the time you've got that. You can do the palm muting just to kind of make everything sort of chunk through. That's not even a word, is it?
No,
but you know what I mean? It kind of gives it that kind of percussive sound. Just as well, when you're playing in a live context, palm muting can just really help stuff kind of come through the mix a little bit better as well.
Sure. So we're looking at alternate picking there. If you're struggling with that, kind of, what's the best way to practice that, do you think?
It's a tricky thing. I mean, apart from the age-old, adage of lots and lots of practice, it's a really weird thing with alternate picking. There tends to be a ceiling that people have. Whether that's 16th notes at 170 or it might be 140 or whatever. There's going to be a point at which you'll suddenly feel there's a little bit of a weird grey zone in the middle, which you sort of got to push yourself through. It kind of sounds like I'm talking about athletics, but if you sit down with a metronome and find where you're actually struggling, finding it tricky, and then maybe just take the left hand out of it. If we're dealing with which is the thing that I was playing, that was the rhythm.
Yes.
Just do it on a single note and forget about the left hand and just deal with the right hand. Just deal with that note, or anywhere on, it doesn't matter where you are. So I'm doing triplets there, but if that's too fast, or just do one without palm mutes if you want. And then, gradually speed that up.
Start at a comfortable speed, gradually push it. And as you say, get to your ceiling level and try and push that.
Find where that is, yeah. And then the thing is as well is not to change the technique.
Yeah.
You're not suddenly going to go from like that. You don't want to then be going, and suddenly loads of arm. You don't want to engage this forearm muscle too much.
Sure.
There should be this rotation in the wrist. So you just got to make sure that your technique actually really shouldn't.
I notice you're kind of you got a little bit of angle on your pick. You're not too flat.
Yeah, I would never listen to any guitarist that says no, always flat pick everything, because for me, for a lot of stuff, blues, jazz, anything, it'll improve the tone. You'll actually get a bassier sound by using an angle. But particularly for it kind of sounds a bit counterintuitive, but that's what happens. So
you kind of rides over the string, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're not necessarily soaring through the string. You don't want to kind of get that noise too much. But certainly if you angle it ever so slightly, so you're not side on, and notice your forearm, will kind of play to suit. But there's a slight angle there. Even when you're just doing it on one single note as well. And it'll make it, if you're flat picking, you can get stuck under the strings.
Sure.
And that's quite a common problem, actually. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So it comes back to something we were talking about earlier, actually, posture and hand position, and how critical that is. So what's a really simple technique of just a really simple movement.
Yeah.
But if your hand's in the wrong position, it can really, really hold you up.
Exactly. Yeah. And what we were talking about standing up and all this kind of stuff, thumb position. This, I would say, probably leans more towards the classical thing.
Yeah.
If you're starting to play this with the thumb over the top, it's not going to work very well.
No.
Because what happens is, if you're in this position, that's that E minor shape that I had. If you've got everything hanging over the top, you'll notice that the angle suddenly changes and you're doing this with the shoulder. And it's quite difficult to actually get everything to sound right, and you'll have loads and loads of tension.
So we've taken a similar approach to this to other things we've spoken about, where we've said, learn the fret hand part separately from the pick hand part. So get the movement down in your pick hand.
Get that down,
if your fret hand's not playing the right thing, it's not in time, you're not going to be able to get it down anyway.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, the two-string thing, it might be a step too far if you've never done this before.
Yeah.
In which case, do it on a single note, and then maybe try 4 notes.
Yeah.
Type of thing. This, one of the first ones I ever practiced of an old Malmsteen lick, which was just a
single string lick.
Just single, these are just 16th notes. You can, of course, take them into sextuplets and speed them up and stuff as well, but it's just to really get the coordination down, really. And that's the thing, it's just getting coordination together.
Yeah.
At a slow speed, that tends to be fairly straightforward. As soon as you start to speed that up, what you don't want to do is kind of just suddenly engage this hand. If you then go, it'll just, that's what it'll sound like. You get this complete mess
Sure.
of lack of coordination because there's not that sense of timing. So always doing stuff with metronome is really, really useful for this type of thing.
Cool.
So yeah, maybe just do single string stuff to start off with. I mean, there's loads of things you can do with this. There's, but the diatonic scale thing is great
do
for
like crossing the strings, crossing the neck.
Absolutely.
You can do like whole cycles of these. If you, with just one pattern, can't you?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I was just taking E minor because it tends to be a nice, easy kind of metal rock key or whatever. But you could do this anywhere,
Sure.
So yeah, these little scale fragments, they're great for alternate picking sort of exercise, and they sound musical as well. So we don't just have to go to. When do you do that in a solo? All that kind of stuff.
Not often.
Lots of chromaticism. I mean, it can sound cool, but
it's not kind of what you want to practice, is it?
Yeah. So
cool. Well, thanks, Steve.
That's all right.